All right, we're going to keep it moving, right? So, as we go to the next, we're thinking about now, let's talk about cloud native anywhere. And once again, let's imagine this time we're transported to London. We're at a pharma company. We're basically developing applications in the cloud, looking to develop and run on-prem, the flexibility to run anywhere, right? Yeah. Part of the theme of this event. And consolidating public and private events. How do I do all of this, right, with new containerized Kubernetes orchestrated applications? And so, we started thinking about, well, what about management silos? How do I have different teams? If I have a different container team, for example, right, or a different VM team, if I've got a different public cloud team than the private cloud, or even multiple public cloud teams, how do I think about consolidating some of the management here, the operational complexity, and, by the way, the risk of having security remediation times be very extended, actually, right? So I'm trying to basically consolidate all this so that I can get to some sort of resilience. And so the question is, how do I solve this? Thomas, do you have an answer for us?
Well, we actually went and bought one for us.
There we go.
So
all right.
About 18 months ago, we made an acquisition. And this is now being launched as NKP as a core product.
Yes.
And NKP is doing fantastic in the market. This is an exciting space for Nutanix right now. So long story short, we're able to deliver fleet management wherever you're running. We can simplify and really automate your day-to-day operations for all your Kubernetes. And then we innovate, bringing our own IP. You know, Rajiv yesterday announced Client-Side OS for protecting your native EKS workloads.
Brilliant.
As always, let's go to Jose.
Let's go to the demo.
Check the demo.
All right.
Buenos días, mi amigo.
Buenos días.
How are you, Jose?
Doing well.
All right. So you've been doing this a long time, even before we actually connected and brought the D2IQ team at Nutanix. So please, lots of clusters. It gets complicated very quickly. How do we help?
Sure. So teams, they spend countless hours just switching between different interfaces because you have clusters on the public cloud, cluster on premises, different Kubernetes distributions. But NKP Fleet Management, it's able to unify that in a single view. So that helps you to reduce time when you need to troubleshoot. Like in this case, right? So we have a bunch of clusters. So we have clusters such as Azure AKS, NKP on Azure, we have clusters on Nutanix, or even clusters running on vSphere as well as on AWS.
I like it. You know, so when we say anywhere, we're not joking. This is anywhere.
Exactly.
All right, awesome. Now, in practice, large environments, you're going to have some departments that will have their own clusters. So how do we go and enable delegation to these tenants?
Sure. So NKP group the cluster on what we call workspaces. You should think about workspaces as a way of structuring your clusters into different departments. Environments could be such as manufacturing, like we have in this case. And now the number of clusters has been reduced. So with this, we are providing true multi-tenancy. And the way that we do this MSP-grade tenant management, it's because we have built-in roles into the tool. On that way, you speed up the process of creating these tenants while you make sure that they are secure. Tenants, at the same time, they have requirements for different applications. But at the same time, platform engineers, they want to have that consistent layer to manage all their Kubernetes clusters in the same way. And this is where NKP brings an application catalog with applications that they are best-in-class applications on the open source community. So that means that you, platform engineers, can use the same tools to manage your Kubernetes cluster regardless where they run. But at the same time, tenants that they may need different tools, they can have those applications on their catalog as well.
I see. So every tenant can have its own setup of applications. Now, if you do that, does it make it hard to go and do upgrades and keep things maintained as a platform team?
That's right, and this is why many customers, they are moving into NKP. So when you do Kubernetes yourself, that is really hard because it's not just about Kubernetes, it's about all those tools that you need to deploy on top of them to create your cloud native platform. And that can be a lot of work when you test and validate them. But in our case, for example, here we have all our clusters running a specific Kubernetes version, right? We want now to upgrade all these clusters to a new version. So we just triggered upgrade this workspace, and now, for example, the cluster running on Nutanix has been upgraded, while other clusters, they are in the process of being upgraded.
Okay. And so this is all controlled by the platform team, not the tenants?
Correct.
All right, awesome. let's move on to the next thing, which is you have these clusters. And always we hear talking to customers is deploying new environments is complicated. And you have a lot of decisions to make. How do we make this easy?
Sure. So until now, what we have seen is like the cake. Let's see how we get to that picture. And we are going to start with day one. And day one is the creation of clusters. So NKP brings built-in integration with multiple infrastructure providers out of the box. Usually teams, they spend a lot of time customizing and doing infrastructure as code that they have to maintain.
Right.
But with NKP, all that is gone. So we streamline the process that you create Kubernetes clusters. Like in this case, so we are creating a cluster running on Nutanix Cloud Platform, and the integration that we have in this case with Prism Central. Imagine for a second you, as an infrastructure administrator, you create a project in Prism Central, assigning quotas, such as CPU, memory, and disk, and now you can put your NKP cluster into that project. So that is from the resources standpoint. At the same time, NKP integrates with Nutanix Flow. So what we are talking here, those VPCs that you need segmentation with overlay networks, NKP is also integrated in that layer.
So we're back to these layers of protection topic.
Correct.
Okay.
And finally, on that picture of layers of protection, we have the Prism categories. With those categories, you are able to enforce microsegmentation at the level of the virtual machines.
Nice.
So you can get a production-ready Kubernetes cluster in under 20 minutes.
Wow, that's awesome. So 30 minutes to get a new cluster all up and running with all of the tooling required to actually operate this cluster.
Correct.
And that gets us to day 2 operations.
Correct. So day 2 operations, you may think, OK, but it's true that I need different tools. Well, let me show you for a second. I'm going to open here just the different tools that they have been deployed. So from the observability standpoint, you can see that we have tools from the open source community, very famous, such as Grafana, Prometheus, that it's coming with the NKP cluster on Nutanix. But at the same time, if we move for a second to the NKP cluster running on vSphere, we have the exactly same tools. That is going to help you to speed up the process when you get into problems on your platform. But let me show you something that is my favorite functionality when it comes to NKP. And this is NKP Insight. With NKP Insight, in a single dashboard, you get aggregated all those anomalies that they are happening in the platform. You don't want to be connecting to the different consoles all the time, right? So you want to get that information, such as what are best practices, security. So on that way, you have a single page where you get all those.
And that's for all your clusters, wherever they are, right?
Correct.
Good. Awesome. So look, I mean, this is a very powerful platform. Again, the NKP team has been building this for years. We got lots of customers, large customers already on this. NKP is doing fantastic in the market today. So if you haven't looked at it already, take a look. It's going to change the way you think about Kubernetes. But that's not the only thing we do when it comes to cloud native. We love data.
Correct.
So can you show us cloud native OS in action?
Sure. So for cloud native AOS, we are going to change to a different tenant. In this case, we are going to move to the research tenant. So the research tenant, or the research team, they are running cloud native AOS on EKS. We see that we have a primary cluster running in London, a secondary cluster running in Paris, and cloud native AOS is providing persistent storage for those stateful applications, as well as at the same time, disaster recovery.
What is this application that we're protecting?
Well, let me show you first how we have enabled, cloud native AOS from the application catalog. You can see that in this case, this workspace looks different, and cloud native AOS has been enabled on both clusters, the cluster in London and the cluster in Paris. So yeah, that is the way that we enable cloud native AOS.
I'm just seeing Pac-Man. I just can't get my eyes off of it, so you're gonna have to
I knew that you were going to say something about this Pac-Man that we have here. So we have the Pac-Man application, and the Pac-Man application is being on the primary cluster. So right now, Pac-Man is running on London, right? And we can see that on this cluster, the research team can open the Pac-Man application. So the Pac-Man is there, but the most important part here with Pac-Man. So Pac-Man has to store the leaderboard on persistent storage. Yes. So this is a Mongo database that is backed by cloud native AOS.
Every time I talk to you, something happens. Seriously?
Last year was Lee. This year is good. I don't know what's going on here.
All right.
Don't worry, we have cloud native AOS.
Quickly.
We have that the cluster in London just went down, right? So let's recover as quick as possible. Now, me as a research user, I could go to the application catalog, trigger my restore, select on what cluster I want my Pac-Man application. Let's go to Paris, right? And now we have here a new dashboard, the dashboard for that Pac-Man application that has been restored. And I think that it's good to see that
it's running. First of all, it's running. You have the data.
let's have a little bit of fun. Oops. I'm ashamed of myself. I'm just going to use your name, Thomas, because I think that is the right way of doing it.
I did call you amigo at the beginning,
Yeah. But the most important part here is that first, we were running Pac-Man in Paris. Second one, that we have persistent storage in Paris, and we can see here the score at the bottom. And third one, that all that leaderboard that we had in London, the disaster recovery worked, and we have that data in Paris.
How did it all work? I mean, this is all cloud native in EKS, and we're just complementing that solution to make it super easy to protect your data. How does it all work in the background, really?
Cool. And just to wrap up, how that looks like behind the scene. So we can see here the Kubernetes dashboard. So the cluster, the Mongo application, it's running in Paris. And the disaster recovery was possible because using Cloud Native AOS, the snapshots, they were being replicated every hour into that cluster in Paris.
Jose, another great demo. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And again, power of what we're doing for Cloud Native. Thank you. All right. I mean, we covered a lot of ground this morning already. Okay? And this is all things that you can do with our current products, things that are coming out in the next few months.
Right. And we're making it all possible, right? With now Kubernetes available anywhere from on-prem right into the public cloud, all the way out into air-gapped environments as well. So multi-fleet management, right? Empowering teams, all of this, right, has been a big part. And so from that standpoint, I think the demo standpoints that we've seen have been awesome around AOS on EKS. And what I'd like to do quickly, right, is let's imagine.
I'm with next.
Oh, yeah, for that. Yes. Thank you to Thomas and team for all the demos, please.